You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chillson, and this is my ranking of every Chris Hemsworth film. Now, before we get into this countdown, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. So upon the release of Thor, Love and Thunder, I decided to go ahead and revisit Chris Hemsworth's full filmography. Now, as your resident Chris Hemsworth simp, of course, I had pretty much seen them all at this point and wanted to make sure that my simp card stayed nice and platinum, so decided to go ahead and watch each and every Chris Hemsworth starring film. Now, I've done this with my other boy thing, my other boo when it comes to cinema, Mr. Tom Holland. So check out that full filmography ranking. But here with Chris Hemsworth, that left me with 25 films to get through. Now, I did not include very small cameo parts. Yes, I know he's been in a couple other things in tiny little roles, sometimes even uncredited or just himself. So I'm sorry to the J and Silent Bob fans out there. You won't see that reboot on the countdown. Remember, this is just my ranking. This is how I enjoyed them. And remember, this is a Chris Hemsworth film ranking. So while I may enjoy a film more than I do some others, if they're pretty close and Hemsworth is better and has a better role in the worst film, well, I'm probably going to rank the worst film above the technically better one. And yeah, it's all subjective, even with my super scientific criteria. So make sure to leave your own Hemsy ranking in the comment section down below. Now, let's cut the dang chit chat because we have 25 films to get through. So, kicking us off, as my least favorite Hemsworth film, I have Black Hat. Now, there's this weird Twitter contingent who has been defending Black Hat recently. I think people just like Michael Mann and don't want to admit that this film is a mess. The action is so shaky. I could barely tell which Hollywood Chris I was looking at half of the film. And it's boring. It's a thriller without a single thrill to be had. And yeah, I hate to say this about my man, but Hemsworth is really wooden in this role. All around, not good. At number 24, I have Red Dawn, the remake that truly never needed to happen. And after watching the final product, I really wish had never happened. Red Dawn is an action film without any sort of thrills or excitement, chock full of absolutely terrible performances from a cast full of the it moment young actors of the time. But woof, Josh Peck, wow, truly a bad performance for the ages. At number 23, I have Vacation. Now, this is a film I actually detest. I find it painfully unfunny, truly cringeworthy, no charm, nothing about it is good, except Chris Hemsworth. The best part about this film, far and away, when they go to Leslie Mann's house and we meet Chris Hemsworth, their dynamic is funny, and Chris Hemsworth steals the entire damn movie. He is the lone bright spot of this otherwise dreadful film. Plus, I can't really rank it like last place, because it gave us that iconic underwear moment. Now, if only it wasn't a prosthetic printing out those boxer briefs. Maybe this film could have been salvaged after all. Coming in at number 22, I have Cash. This is kind of Hemsworth's first leading role. After spending years in Australian TV, he made it in to this Sean Bean money thriller. And in honesty, it's actually a pretty terrible movie. Like, the cinematography is so shoddy, the acting is really bad, and that script, particularly for Sean Bean, is so dreadful. But something about it, and all of its glorious terrible, was fun to watch. I don't know. There's a good time to be had in this mess, at least, which I can't really say for the films we've already talked about. Coming in at 21, I have The Huntsman Winters War. Honestly, one of the most disappointing films of my entire life. Y'all, those trailers had me hyped for the Huntsman Winters War. Not only did we have Chris Hemsworth and Jessica Chastain, we had Charlize Theron and Emily Blunt as these super powered evil sisters duking it out. What is not to love? How do you mess this up? Well, you hardly put those two evil sisters in the film. You reduce their storyline down to the bare bones and instead focus on Chris Hemsworth and Jessica Chastain in one of the worst, most bland and boring romances I've seen in a blockbuster. Yeah, this film comes ranked this low because Chris Hemsworth is part of the worst thing about this film. Now, it's not necessarily that Hemsworth and Chastain are bad, but that script is so void of anything, and he just did not have good chemistry with Chastain. Oof. I was begging to cut back to Charlize and Emily Blunt, and they just wouldn't give it to me. Kicking off our top 20, at number 20, I have A Perfect Getaway. Now, this was a perfectly fine little thriller starring Steve Zahn, Mila Djokovic, and Chris Hemsworth, as well as Timothy Oliphant. Some pretty good cast, actually. For most of the film, it's actually quite fun. The mystery is a good time. You're on board with this thriller aspect of the film. Hemsworth has a pretty small role, but he's effective in this mysterious setup he has. Unfortunately, the third act decides to go back through and thoroughly take us through the events that lead up to this point instead of just giving us a reveal. And it stops the film dead in its tracks, halts any momentum before giving us a fun enough type of ending. The beginning of that third act, coupled with the fact that Hemsworth has like 5 minutes of screen time, keep A Perfect Getaway from moving up any further. At 19, I have Snow White and the Huntsman. Shockingly, the better of the two Huntsman films. Snow White and the Huntsman is fully carried by Charlize Theron. Her performance is so good, so campy, over the top with these amazing visuals. She single-handedly saves this film. Kristen Stewart was miscast as Snow White from the jump. Chris Hemsworth is fine as the Huntsman here. I actually think I like him better here than, the film centered around his character. But it's overall just kind of dull and a slog when we're not following Charlize Theron. It's not completely terrible per se, but it certainly isn't very good either. At number 18, I have Men in Black International. Now, I was one of the few that actually had some fun with MIB International. Chris Hemsworth goes a long way in my but there's some fun to be had here. The alien designs are a good time. Some of these action set pieces are a good time. Chris Hemsworth just has so much charisma in this lead role, as does Tessa Thompson. So although they don't have the best chemistry together here, which once you've seen Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder, that makes absolutely no sense. But the screenplay is just too much, and there's too much dead space with a script that can't quite find its way. Fun, but really flawed. At 17, I have Thor, The Dark World. Now, Hemsworth is not the problem when it comes to Thor, The Dark World. In fact, Thor and Loki's chemistry is what propels this film. When they are on screen together, it sings, it's fun, they have great chemistry together. Hemsworth and Hiddleston just work. Not to mention, I loved everything with Freya. I think she's great. I love Renee Russo. Her small moments with Thor are wonderful. And then, of course, her fight is so good. Unfortunately, everything around that is not good. Malekith and everything to do with those dark elves is a snore. The romance with Jane Foster is a complete snooze. Natalie Portman is absolutely checked out. She's in full autopilot mode here, and really, their chemistry bottoms out to nothing. It's easily the worst Thor MCU attempt to date. At 16, I have In the Heart of the Sea. This film overall is a bit of a slog to get through. A really boring and unfortunately bland retelling of the Moby Dick fairy tale, a Moby Dick film that pretty much more or less doesn't feature the whale like at all. However, Ron Howard does bring a certain visual flair, an epic scope to the storytelling, and Chris Hemsworth himself is pretty great in this film. I commend him for losing all of that weight, especially when you see him go from his Thor bod to this malnourished bod of In the Heart of the Sea. It is a true transformation for an actor. And he does everything he can in this leading role. Unfortunately, the screenplay just doesn't give him room to be interesting and charismatic. Come on, Ron. If you're not going to give us Moby Dick, can you at least give us some Chris Dick? Flying in at number 15, I have Star Trek. Now, this is credited as our feature film debut for Chris Hemsworth, and what a debut it was. Honestly, as a film, Star Trek would definitely rank much higher on this list because I quite enjoy the Star Trek films, the new ones at least. And I actually think Chris Hemsworth is really good as Captain Kirk's father. The problem? Well, he's barely in the film. Blink, and you miss the fact that Chris Hemsworth was even in Star Trek at all. Now, his presence as a character does have somewhat of a lasting effect through the film, but in a ranking about Chris Hemsworth, I couldn't justify such a small role that it almost could have fallen into that cameo category any higher on the list. At number 14, I have Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, dare I say, this is my favorite Chris Hemsworth look in the entirety of the MCU. In honesty, it's between Age of Ultron and Love and Thunder. Those are the best this man has ever looked as the character of Thor. I loved the suit he got in Age of Ultron. The hair was just right, everything. They got it right with this one. And the film around him, well, it's fine. It's good. It's okay. There's some stuff in Age of Ultron that I really don't like. And then there's other stuff that I think really helps to elevate the film by and large. It's an uneven, bit of a messy film when it comes to the Avengers timeline. And Thor doesn't really have a big part in the film. He just looks good each time he makes an appearance. At number 13, I have 12 Strong, a surprisingly solid war film that has Chris Hemsworth delivering yet another really strong performance as our lead hero. 12 Strong gives some gripping, really solid action set pieces as we move throughout this insane war in Iraq. The film also really showcases the unnecessary ruthlessness of this war and does a great job of getting into the soldier's psyche. Coming in at number 12, I have Spiderhead, the Netflix thriller that I seem to enjoy a lot more than the rest of the world. Chris Hemsworth is great in this film. He is really having a good time. I love when we get these few cases of villain Hemsworth because he really just dives into it and has a good time with these roles, much like he did here in Spiderhead. Miles Teller is also a delight, and Jurdy Smollett, wonderful as always. The story kept me fully engaged. I was intrigued in the direction we were going in, and watching the Hemsworth character transform from the beginning to the unhinged final product was a delight. Yeah, Hemsy, you can mind control me any day. Now, just missing out on a top 10 position, at number 11, I have Extraction. Another Chris Hemsworth Netflix original, one of the biggest Netflix original films of all time. It broke records upon release. And yeah, I was one of those, waiting up until 1 a.m. to hit that play button. Extraction is just a pure, fun action film. These action set pieces are fantastic, largely due to Hemsworth and his fellow co-stars doing a lot of their own stunt work here. And it allows the camera to linger, to do these huge, insane one-take shots. Extraction truly set a precedent for what action should look like in the modern setting, particularly amongst the world of Taken and, Black Hat, Michael Mann. Hemsworth is fantastic here. as I think he is oftentimes. But that story, well, not great. Pretty generic and sometimes actually a little bit infuriating. It works best as a turn your brain off, watch Hemsworth be a badass type of viewing. If you go in like that, well, it makes its way up to number 11. So, kicking off our top 10, I have Ghostbusters. Controversial pick. I know a lot of y'all would throw this to the bottom of your list. Well, listen, I have fun with the 2016 Ghostbusters. I think the ladies are a lot of fun, but I hate to do this. In a cast full of talented, funny women, Chris Hemsworth steals the whole damn show. This is one of the many times in his career where Chris gets a supporting role and does so much with it. He is amazing as Kevin. Honestly, if you look throughout so much of his filmography, Chris Hemsworth shines when he gets to be funny. He gets to show off his true comedic talents, and that is ever so present in Ghostbusters. And he's up against some heavyweight comedians in this film. And dare I say, he overshadows them for a good portion of the flick. Of course, that dance and the physical body humor that he gets to invoke near the end of the film are great. As a physical specimen, he's great. And I love me a good himbo. And Kevin from Ghostbusters is the pinnacle. Coming in at number 9, I have Avengers Endgame. Now, Endgame would be higher if I were just ranking the films as films. However, we're talking about Chris Hemsworth films. Now, I think Hemsworth is actually fantastic in the role of Thor here. His acting brings more gravitas to what was put to the screen, and I respect the overall message that the Russos were trying for with the character of Thor. Unfortunately, I just don't think it was executed very well. Instead of making it this empowering, uplifting type of story for a broken, depressed character, they really made him the butt of all the jokes in the movie. And at some point, I was just tired of it. Not to mention, this film kind of stripped Thor of everything that made him special. His powers were given away left, right, and center. His spot on the team was kind of replaceable now. And that was so disappointing, particularly coming off of a film that was so empowering for the character. So I love Endgame. I just am still very, very divided on this Thor depiction. At number 8, I have Thor. First of all, I hate those damn eyebrows. What were you thinking? Kenneth Branagh and the damn makeup department that did this to my man. But Hemsworth is great. Branagh introduces him in this fish out of water comedy aspect that he shines in. I love this iteration of Thor. I think Hemsworth fully buys into it and delivers a full-on character here. The film itself is also a lot of fun, one of the most underrated in all of the MCU. It certainly served as a great introduction to the character and to the world when it comes to Chris Hemsworth as a movie star. At number 7, I have Thor Love and Thunder, the latest Chris Hemsworth film and the newest Thor outing. Love and Thunder is a blast. We finally get another glimpse at that Hemsy booty, and I could not be more thankful. It's been years at this point. But beyond that, Hemsworth has fully found himself enveloped in the role of Thor. He is his character, fully embodying it. He's living through the screenplay here, and it comes through. This is a mature outing for both he as an actor and Thor as a character, and it makes it for one of the most enjoyable watches for Thor fans. The action's great. He gets to flex not only the most jacked body we've seen to date, but also his comedic timing and comedic chops with that vulnerability the character has been allowed to show recently that has made him much more relatable. Coming in at number 6, I have Avengers. Another great Thor look, I will say. His hair is perfectly coiffed here. His costume is fabulous. And he is serving up that true himbo realness as the character of Thor. And yeah, if you can't tell, Thor works best for me when he gets to be a shining himbo. The action scenes involving the God of Thunder are great here in Avengers. Thor gets a lot more to do than he does in Age of Ultron. He gets to be funny, he gets to be badass, he gets all of it in this film. And while everybody else turns against this film, I still love Avengers and I love Hemsworth's role in it. So, breaking in our top five, I have The Cabin in the Woods. Chris's only true horror film on this list, it's still a horror comedy. Yet another Joss Whedon entry into the Chris Hemsworth filmography, Cabin in the Woods is the best outing the pair have had together. And Chris, once again, gets to shine as a wonderful himbo. He's great playing the dumb jock. He's sexy, he's cool, he's really fun and a bit funny. It's certainly one of his most enjoyable films to date. Coming in at number 4, I have Thor Ragnarok. Now, this film is just a blast. I adore Thor Ragnarok. It's one of my favorite MCU films to date, and I think Hemsworth fully gets to find his potential in this character. Teaming up with Taika Waititi, he is gold. Not only is the action a whole lot of fun, but Chris Hemsworth gets to do what Hemsworth does best, and that is be a funny, charismatic action hero. And he does that to his best degree here in Thor Ragnarok. Of course, he is the lead of the film. His name's on the marquee. It's my favorite Thor film still to date, and one of my favorite outings for Hemsworth as the character in the entirety of the MCU. Now, coming in at number 3, I have Bad Times at the El Royale. Yeah, no, it don't look as sexy when I do it. Oh, Chris Hemsworth getting to be a baddie. I'm telling you, something just hits different when he goes to the evil side of things. And let me tell you, I was ready. I was ready to convert. I would have been in that cult like that. Do you hear me? I would have fought those teenage girls to the damn death to get into that bedroom. No, but I love Bad Times at the El Royale. So underrated. Such an underrated Hemsworth film. It's such an underrated film, period. I think it's great. I love the intertwining of the stories, and Hemsworth is absolutely magnetic here. What a fantastic acting role for Thor outside of the MCU. He's slimy, he's skeezy, but there's this alluring, seductive quality to him. He is embodying this cult leader to a T. Not to mention, he gives us one of the sexiest villains ever put to screen. Yes, even with that damn mustache. He's great. The movie's great. What's not to love? Coming in at number 2, our runner-up position, I have Avengers Infinity War. For me, so far to date, Infinity War is the peak for the character of Thor. Not only is he at his most badass here in Infinity War, he doesn't start there. We have to gradually progress. This is the peak character development for Thor, in addition to him being at his peak power moments. His entire journey through the MCU pretty much has led up to Infinity War. We really see him start to get torn down heavily when it comes to Ragnarok, and that's held throughout the first half of this film here. Getting those tender moments with him on the ship, just kind of realizing everything he's lost and everything he's still trying to fight for is heartbreaking, and he does an amazing job of selling everything here. He gets to be kind of dumb, like he always has been, but while having this emotional wisdom to him that we had never seen in previous iterations of the character. And then, of course, we get the amazing moments of him holding up and taking on the full blast of a star, and the most epic entrance, not only in the entire MCU, but possibly in all of comic book film history, when Thor thunders into Wakanda. It's still one of the most insane entrances and moments I've had in a movie theater. Thor is synonymous with Chris Hemsworth at this point, and this film is the peak of his powers as the character. That's why it has to be up in my top two. But it couldn't quite overcome the number one Chris Hemsworth film in my eyes, and that is Rush. While Thor as a character is what has really made him a bona fide movie star, Rush is what showed people his true potential as an actual actor. First of all, this was our one and only glimpse of some Hemsworth nudity up through, well, Love and Thunder. And I have been holding on to that one little scene for almost a decade now. But outside of that quick little booty glance, Ron Howard and Chris Hemsworth strike magic with Daniel Bruhl in their first pairing here in this Formula One epic. The cinematography is amazing, the screenplay is stellar, and Chris Hemsworth gives, bar none, his best acting performance to date. Acting opposite the insanely talented Daniel Bruhl, who is at his peak acting and able to go toe to toe with him, is a feat. The film has everything. It has amazing racing sequences, it has character driven drama, it has more dramatic, explosive drama moments, and stellar performances, direction, and cinematography. While Chris continues to put out solid, strong content, Rush still holds up as the peak movie of the Chris Hemsworth filmography. So that is my ranking of the 25 films starring Chris Hemsworth. What did you think of my ranking? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. And of course, I want you to join in on the discussion. Not only what did you think of my ranking, I want to know how you would rank every Chris Hemsworth film you've seen. Drop that ranking either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.